Hi, we're now live. It's Simone Davis here from the Montessori Notebook and
Jeanne-Marie from Voilà Montessori in San Diego.
yeah, welcome everybody. We're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to get onto the call. We're starting very promptly at 8 o'clock. How are you, Jeanne-Marie?
I am great. I'm wonderful. It's beautiful weather here, and I'm just ecstatic about technology today because you and I met online, World Wide Web and all this, and then we finally met in person, 2 years ago in Amsterdam. And now here we are both in our homes speaking live to everybody who wants to ask us questions. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so today's live call is going to be about engaging cooperation with our children. And we're going to try and look at a more Montessori approach rather than threatening, bribing, using stickers, rewards, and punishments. We're going to look at some more Montessori-friendly ideas. Sound fun?
Yes, and Montessori-friendly ideas I have discovered is really positive discipline, all of Jane Nelson's work, and I know I've integrated it a lot with both my Montessori classroom and then all my parenting advice that I give. So I'm very excited to be talking about all of that.
Yeah, super fun. All right, well, I think we may as well get straight into some of the first questions that have been sent through. Thank you everyone for sending in the questions. It's going to be super fun. I might start with one from Adele, and she asks, if you ask your child to do something and you tried clear direction or distraction with a calm voice that was kind of stern, but, you know, take me seriously, but nothing seems to work but to raise your voice when your blood's already boiling, what else can you do? And she's giving the example, let's say he is standing on the chair and she's tried things like telling him we sit on the chair, we don't stand, we tell him why, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, do you want to talk to that first?
Sure. Now, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the age of the child.
She doesn't mention the age, but
Okay.
let's say that, you know, he maybe a toddler, 2-year-old.
Okay, so that makes a big difference because before 3, the child is, as we know, an unconscious learner. So there's really sometimes just, it's hard to kind of get through to them. And so I think we have to really to take Dr. Marcy Axness's words, who wrote Parenting for Peace. She says that sometimes we have to really talk with this conviction, just like the conviction that you know that your child needs to wear a seatbelt to ride in your car. So it's kind of that really deep down where there's just no negotiation. So if it is something that might put the child in danger, to me, I mean, the way that I really like to talk is really, I can't let you do that. I need to keep you safe. I cannot let you do that. And it's really not even going into long explanations as to why you might get hurt and this might happen, because sometimes it's just we overtalk things. So we just need to be very firm and kind, loving. I love you, but the answer is no. So it's really about just knowing that it's your conviction that you just, need to keep your child safe, and you are not going to allow this to happen.
I also find that there's a lot of repetition involved. You know, you have to consistently, they might try it in the morning and then get up on the chair again in the afternoon, and they're actually just learning, does it still apply? Does that rule still apply? It's now after lunch. And then tomorrow morning they may get up and try it again. So I find
and we have to ask ourselves, why is the child wanting to get up on the chair? They have a need. They're discovering what their body strength, and they want to climb and all this. So we need to give them also options to be able to fulfill that need. So I see that you really want to climb, but we don't have anything to climb in the house. We can go to the park and climb there, so that you're also understanding where these needs are coming from. They're not I think we sometimes always think that they're doing these things to get us upset, to make our blood boil, when really it's just, they're just trying to figure out what this world is all about, what their body's all about, and all of that. So if we can understand that and just guide them in a positive way, then I think that takes away a lot of our stress too.
I also have a funny story about a child in my playgroup classes, and they were climbing up onto the chair. And when you looked why they were actually climbing up onto the chair, they were trying to reach the fruit bowl, which was too far for them to get to. Exactly. And so sometimes it's not even that they're misbehaving and they're trying to drive you crazy. They're actually, yeah, like you say, meeting a need or trying to reach something. And like, what can I get for you? Show me what you want me to do. And actually working with them to find out more a little bit sometimes about the story.
Right.
But I really like what you were talking about very beginning, which is about the tone of the voice that we use with the child. It really makes a big difference. If you kind of whine at the child and say, we sit on the chair, you know, you're saying the right words, but with the wrong tone, you're not going to get cooperation from them. But like you said, if you say, I can't let you do that, or just very gently but firmly and with love, set those limits, you need a lot of practice. And it's not in our daily life. We hear this from a lot of people or from what our parents did. So it's learning and practicing.
Right. And when you say repetition, it's also us repeating kind of those mantras to ourselves that, you know, it's kind of, I've got this, and it's about having that conviction of, you know, knowing what we need to do to keep our children safe. And so, yeah.
So, Annelle, I think we were basically, to summarize what we were talking about, it would be to say very clearly with firm conviction. So I think you said that that's what you try to do. Keep repeating yourself, like acknowledge that he's going to keep testing that limit over and over. Maybe look at what the reason is that he wants to climb. And also acknowledging his feeling. You really want to climb. Let's see if we can, maybe they also could build a little commando course in their home that they can climb up onto the couch or some other thing. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully you've got a few extra ideas there, Annelle, to try, and just following through with some of the questions that will come up tonight maybe will also help in that kind of situation. So let me give you another question. Oh, this one's interesting. Okay, my question is how to encourage my 5-year-old to do the necessary morning ablutions, you know, getting out of the house without constant repetition, reminding, sometimes tears, but always resistance. I don't want to eat, I don't want to get dressed, I don't want, and things like that. So yeah.
So a 5-year-old.
Cards and timers. A 5-year-old. Yeah.
5-year-old, wonderful reasoning mind. They know, they understand what is needed. My suggestion in that kind of a situation is really to sit down with them and problem solve together. And not in a time when we're rushing or anything, but really when we're calm, we're rested, we're well fed, and we just have a conversation with the child and maybe with all the other family members, so that it's really about finding solution. I've noticed that we really have a hard time getting out the house without being upset. And it would make it so much better for everybody if we could just, you know, have our routines and leave the house, and maybe we'll even have some extra time for whatever the child likes, a cuddle, a book, or whatever. And from there, really involve the child in problem solving, in figuring out each step from the moment they wake up to the moment they are out the door. What are each of the steps that need to be done? I like to either write them down if it's a child who is reading, or have fun with it and take pictures. Have the child act out everything and make kind of either a little picture book, or put it on I like to use Velcro sometimes, because then the child can actually move the pictures. And really, so basically you're creating a routine, a visual aid to the routine. What's important here is once the routine is established and everybody is okay with it, and you know, we have everybody's buy-in, is to really let go of reminding the child and really helping the child to take ownership of this routine and saying, oh, what do you have to do next? Why don't you go check? Because he knows, he's figured it out. You guys have taken pictures or made drawings, or you know, you can even make a little book with a little photo album. And it's just a matter of really giving him ownership of this responsibility. And making it that it's the routine that's in charge. No longer you. You no longer have to remind and nag and coax and did you put your socks on? Did you brush your teeth? Did you do this? No, they know what needs to be done. So it's really, what do you need to do next? I need to go do something over here. You know what you need to do over there. And really letting them have it. Why I suggested at one point Velcro is because I like for the child to have the ability to maybe change the order in which things are done sometimes, because again, that empowers them to own this whole routine. I actually had done this with my son. He was a bit older, so he had actually written out, we had a really hard time getting out the door for school and being on time. So he wrote out everything he needed to do on little Post-its, and it was on the side of his bedboard, and he had them all. And some days he would just turn them around, just as long as the last one was always the same, that we were out the door, fully closed and ready to go to school. It was fine. I didn't care what order, because sometimes we kind of just have to let go of that and let them know that they are in charge. Yeah. So that to me is an awesome tool. Jane Nelson talks a lot about it, of just creating a routine chart. My only thing about that is I just create only one. We really have to pick the challenging one and not start creating routine charts all over the house for every little thing. You know, just pick that one transition that tends to be difficult.
And I think the big thing, like, I think she has tried some task chart cards before.
Okay.
And I think that the difference to what you're saying, though, is the child is taking responsibility. One, they're involved in the problem solving and coming up with the list and the tasks that are involved. And secondly, it's the parent is very clear whose responsibility is. It's the child's responsibility. And I tend to see, particularly with older children, I don't know if you have this expression in America, but they're throwing the rope to you, basically. They're saying, hey, Mom, I have trouble getting out of the house. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Yeah? And so what I really like about your ideas is that it's giving the child back the control. I also have another question from another listener, and it's about a child that's younger. So I think it's worth covering now because it is a slightly different situation because they can't consciously get involved with this task list. But I think there's still a lot that you can do to set up a regular routine so they know what's happening next and just really focusing more on one thing at a time. Right.
What is the age of this younger child?
It says toddler, so I'm going to assume 2.
So I toddlers, they might not have as much expressive vocabulary as the 5-year-old, but they understand. They know. So we can totally take them through that whole acting out and taking pictures, and they have so much fun with it. And then they actually get to see a book and follow the book about themselves. I mean, how empowering and how fun. So I would still, go through, and you can really display it any which way, whether, it's on the wall or in a little book, and really, again, reading that to them. Kind of reminding them, making it a story about them and what they need to do, and maybe even reading it. I know I use this sometimes also for children whose sleep routine is kind of difficult. So the whole bedtime routine and all that, and it's really basically creating a bedtime book that's really about them and how. What they need to do to get in bed, and then what actually happens if they wake up and it's still nighttime. And you can involve the pets and the siblings and the parents. I mean, just have fun with it to create their story about that particular routine.
I had a really interesting conversation this week with a parent, and they were late to class because the child really was happy to be there, except that he'd been involved with playing with his trains just before he left. He's about to turn 3 in November. And so to change activities for him is a really difficult thing. And I think that a lot of people with toddlers would find that once they're engaged in something, then it's really hard for them to move to the next thing. And like if you're wanting to take the child to the toilet, I always recommend wait till they've finished their activity. But sometimes yeah, they get so engaged that it is hard to distract them. So I really acknowledge that is a difficult time, and that maybe they have, some reminders that can call him out. I guess it's difficult. Do you have any tips for kids who get super focused and hard to leave?
So super focused, I mean, is wonderful, right? We want our children to be super focused and concentrated. If you have a time frame that you know you're going to need to interrupt, I think it's really good to always talk ahead of time. So really, when the child is about to get involved with an activity, just remind them that, when mommy says, in 5 minutes we need to go, that means to, put the toys away because we're going to be doing this and that. And we need to move on to the next activity. I know you don't always like to stop doing what you're doing, but we'll come back to it. It's time for us to, leave the house or whatever. So it's just acknowledging that they do love to get involved and do their work, but also reminding them that we have, other things to do and we need to take our responsibilities. But, children are so sensitive to that order and to routines that it's important to respect that, and it's important to help them be able to predict how the routine might change or what is expected of them. So just giving them a little bit of fair warning of what's expected of them, I have always found to be very helpful.
Yeah, hopefully that helps some of those people out there who are struggling with morning routines, huh? I'll just pause there to remind everyone that if you actually want to post a question during this live call, you can. I think there's a Q&A button. You can click that and add your questions, and I'm hoping they're going to come up in my dashboard. Otherwise, we might be able to get back to you via email. Cool. Are you ready for another one?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. This one is about keeping calm. So this is from Emily. I struggle to stay calm when cooperation's not happening, especially during bedtime preparation, when I want us both to wind down rather than wind up. I need to do a better job setting us both up for success. Ideas?
So again, that's going to be really, first of all, spending some time thinking about what calms you, what really, how you would like your ideal routine at the end of the day to be, and to really acknowledge what that might look like, whether it's, taking a hot shower or sitting and reading a book and so forth, so that you have an idea of what you'd like to model and how you would like the transition to go. And then really applying that with the child as well, that, when, maybe, again, it's all about sequencing, right? So it's really about when we're done with dinner, we can have, time to play or whatever your sequence is, to be able to come to a place where we're going to have the routine that starts winding us down, whether it's, again, bath time or a shower or going for a little stroll in the neighborhood or whatever it is that makes you feel really good. I mean, there's no one answer for anyone. And then really being consistent and following through with that as much as possible, and acknowledging that sometimes we are exhausted and we need to maybe sometimes just walk away and go take a deep breath for, count to 20 or whatever, and come back to be able to deal. I think we tend to feel that we need to push through sometimes. And I don't know if that's always the best modeling, and then it doesn't always show the best, our best self to our children.
I think that is true, that you sometimes need to say and model for them, I need some time out for myself.
Exactly.
And take a moment to breathe and say, Mom's not coping right now. So I'm just going to take a moment to get myself calm again so that we can get on with, having a nice together before bed. You know, there's also like mantras that people find successful that they might be able to repeat to themselves, you know, that are calming and soothing and that remind them they're happy. I mean, and in general, I just think that it's a really, with young children, it's tiring. And when my kids were really small, I used to keep a journal and write down one positive thing that happened every day. And some days it was actually hard to think of something because all I'd done was cook some meals and kept them, you know, safe. And it had been like very trying. But I felt that just gradually, that if you continue to remind yourself of all the positive things that actually are happening, then you can just be more on the positive mindset. I think positive discipline, it comes from a positive place, if you know what I mean.
Completely,
you know?
Completely, yes.
It's in you. So yeah, that's a really interesting one to think about. It's just actually, before you even get to bedtime, it's just generally getting yourself in a better place to tackle those kind of things.
Exactly. And that's why I say it's important to think of what your own routine is, so that you can, you know, incorporate some of that self-care, because it's true, the end of the day is, you know, it's that bewitching hour. It's hard. We're exhausted. We have the day and everything. I mean, don't we wish we all had a good fairy that would come in and take care of everything at that time of day, but it's not possible. So we have to remember to, you know, take some time out to kind of, you know, recenter ourselves so that we can deal with, you know, the routine of the end of the day as well.
Yeah. Great. So we're going to stay positive. We're going to actually take care of ourselves. I'm kind of already thinking of like, okay, you're getting to bedtime and I'm just going to put some oil on to burn or something like this. And I'm going to have a cup of tea while I'm reading a book. And actually then you're in a really relaxed place and they're going to take the key from you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can picture that already and it feels relaxing. Hopefully we don't get too sleepy now. It's great. There's actually some live questions coming in. So why don't I take one of those? How do I make my nearly 3-year-old boy eat different plates? He eats everything in the kindergarten, but at home, if he is not one of his favorite dishes like pasta or rice or couscous, he's just not going to even try. I've tried to put some vegetables on the side just in case he'd like to try, or to mix one new thing and other that he likes and leave him to manage the eating, but it didn't work out. That's from Maya. Thanks, Maya.
So Maya, my question would be, does your child help prepare meals? Is he involved in cooking? Because I have found that those who do participate tend to really get excited about what they've made and will eat more. So, you know, maybe also in his classroom, maybe he is cooking a little bit more and involved. And then just, you know, keep on offering what you think is good for him, and maybe, you know, pull back on the things that are kind of your go-to. I truly believe that children will not let themselves starve, and that they will eat. And you know, it's a bit of eating is one of those things of, we can't force a child to eat. We can only set up a good environment and just have patience and just keep on offering the good foods, and eventually he will, you know, eat it.
Yeah, I love that we're just so on the same wavelength. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I would say too. I think that it's really interesting because just like we were saying, getting out the door where the child's giving it to their mother as a responsibility, sometimes the food battles become when the parent's too involved. Our responsibility as a parent is to put healthy food options on the table at least 3 times a day. And then you know you've done your role, and if the child chooses to eat it, then that's their responsibility. And if they choose to not be so hungry, then you have to kind of think, okay, well, they didn't need so much today, and I'm going to trust that that's what their body needs, and not get emotionally involved in it. Myself, my daughter she was quite a small eater, and if she had 2 meals a day, then probably the third wasn't going to, she wasn't so interested. And she's still the same now at 13. She would kind of happily forget to eat if I didn't say, oh, it's dinner time. You know, she's just not that interested in food. She eats enough. And when she goes through a growth spurt, you cannot stop feeding her. She just eats and eats and eats. So I'm now just trusting that her body knows what she needs and she's healthy. And yeah, actually, I think it will be fun also. It doesn't have anything to do with cooperation, but it has to do with food. And I think it's really interesting about food choices as well, like when things are off limits. So I always think everything a little bit in moderation. So I do occasionally have dessert, but we don't have dessert every night. And I never say, oh, you'll only get dessert if you eat your meal, because that's more like a bribe. I really just want it to be, yeah, even if it wasn't their favorite meal, they can have their dessert. It's just part of our dinner routine. Kind of the French, why French kids don't throw food and all that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm a strong believer of, you know, and I was brought up mostly in France, but of just the one meal. This is the meal that has been prepared for the family, and not being the short order cook of, you know, making only pasta for the child and then the rest of us are eating whatever. And like you say, you know, children's body are very wise, and they will eat. Not only will they eat for their hunger, but also it's interesting how the nutritional plate, it's not on a daily basis, but more on a few days, so that they might just eat a lot of protein one day and then a lot of, you know, fiber another day, and that's really their body telling them what their body is needing. So I like what you say about, you know, really trusting that they will, you know, as long as we present healthy options, I think we can't go wrong.
The other thing I'm curious about, and I'm not sure, Maya, if you want to type it into the Q&A box, is if you eat as a family, because sometimes we give the kids dinner around 5 o'clock and then we eat with our partner maybe later at 7. And as much as possible, I really like to include the child in our daily meals, because then you're also busy feeding yourself and you're not so kind of like hovering over them and wondering if they're going to take the next bite and that kind of thing. So anyway, it hasn't come through, but I think that's something to keep in mind too, is that I still find it very important. I think meal time is a very good connecting thing, and I try and have as many meals as possible with my kids, even now with their teenagers. We definitely all have breakfast together, even on the weekend. And yeah, I think almost every dinner we're together as well. And mealtime is very, significant for building connection with children.
And it's where we model, you know, the norms of our culture and everything. So yes, definitely encourage family meals as much as possible.
Yeah, great. We've got lots of questions coming in. I don't know how busy you are today, but I'm happy to stay here as long as they're coming in. Some have got sent in before the show as well, so I'll come back to the ones on Q&A board in a moment. I have one. Oh, this is the second question from Manel. He's happily doing afternoon chores and independently performing evening rituals. He's just not a morning person. This was the child who was having trouble getting out the door, the 5-year-old. So my question is, how do you give them the tools to deal with their personalities and work with their strengths and weaknesses? I think that's a super interesting question. We get into philosophy here a little bit, huh?
Yes. So just let me rephrase to make sure I understand. This is a child who can stay up and do a lot of things in the evening, but it has a hard time getting up in the morning?
No, I think more that she's saying that in the afternoon and evening, her cooperation, it actually has no problem with the cooperation. He's then working quite independently, but it's just that he's not really a morning person. He's not so switched on. So I was thinking, for example, that perhaps it's building more time into the morning routine. So instead of rushing, it actually means setting the alarm a bit earlier. It might mean going to bed half an hour earlier so you can get up half an hour earlier, have time for the cuddles and the books, and give him the time to go slowly. And the other thing I really like to do in the morning, if I know I'm going to need to kind of give assistance to the kids, is to get up before anyone else wakes up and have my half an hour to myself where I can have a cup of coffee and I can get in the shower and I can get dressed without having to answer a question. I know that's difficult when kids don't always wake up exactly at the same time every day, but it is nice to sometimes get ahead of the game. But
and also is trying to do as much of the preparation for the morning routine in the evening before going to bed. So maybe setting out the clothes, making sure that the school bag is ready, maybe even thinking, I mean, here in the US, we actually have to prepare the lunch for our children to take to school. So, you know, all of that takes time, and it's all part of the routine. So if some of that is taken care of in the evening and kind of thought through, then we can have a more relaxed time and give our child more time to wake up. I mean,
yeah, and I love that. It sounds like it would also suit his personality. If he's more cooperative in the afternoon and the evening, then he's getting it all ready, and he's going to have more interest in being involved.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome. So let's run to one of these on the side, and it says, oh, yes, at home he is not cooking. I will try. That was from Maya. She's going to involve him in some of the cooking.
Good. You'll have a lot of fun.
Exactly. They do like to be involved. And maybe if I even just used a stepladder for my kids to be up at the bench height, or sometimes I took the vegetables to the dining room table and we'd cut together. And I know you can get more expensive kind of things like a fun pod or a learning tower and those kind of things. But they're all ways that they can be involved. And at a younger age, like a 1-year-old can still wash lettuce or something for the meal. So they can be busy. They love setting the table and those kind of things as well as in other ways to get them involved. All right, we will move off food. Hello, great show. I have one question. I have a 1-year-old daughter and I'll have twins in May. How to connect Montessori activities for 3 children? I'm afraid that my daughter can lose something because I'll be busy with the twins. Great question. Thanks, Kat. I can't pronounce your name, Katarzana.
Yes, no, that is a great question. And you know, an issue that comes up a lot when we are expecting our second one, and congratulations, especially expecting twins. It's true that it's important. I think that for your daughter, it's important to have kind of an established area for her that you will easily be able to kind of maybe half off limit for the twins, at least at the beginning when they become more mobile and are interested, so that she feels that she has her area that she can maybe sometimes escape to, because you know her life is going to be turned upside down with two little ones in her life, and I'm sure she's going to be a wonderful big sister as well. But it's definitely a transition. It's really about, you know, and that's more you, Simone, and you know, of just setting up the environment so that both the needs of the 1.5-year-old are satisfied, and also the newborns. But it's really creating spaces in the home that can satisfy both those needs.
Yeah, definitely. I think that hopefully the twins sleep well as well, and so that her life won't change so radically that sometimes they'll be sleeping as well while she's so she can also meet their needs. But I think that if you keep working on introducing Montessori concepts now with the 1.5-year-old, they'll be close to 2 maybe by May. And my calculations aren't going so well in my head. It's a bit late on Friday night for that. Then already you can build independence, like, oh, you know, while I'm feeding the babies, would you like to? And then you can suggest things to go and get. So like when I was breastfeeding, I would send my son off to go and get something from his bedroom, and then he'd have to come back, and then he'd line things up, and then he'd come back, and then he'd bring a book, and then he'd come back, and kind of sending them off for little jobs and keeping them busy and having the environment set up so they can help look after themselves is also kind of, maybe they won't even notice so much changes.
And also, not now, because it's still, you know, far into the future, but maybe that last month or so is really start telling stories of how things are going to be a little different. Always, you know, of course, keeping it in the positive, but just so, again, she can prepare herself and kind of have, you know, predictions of because it's going to be hard in more of your time and your, being there for her constantly. So if at all possible, to definitely have some help at home to help you care for the twins as well, so that because we're suddenly pulled in all different directions. So again, your self-care is very important, and just letting them have stories. I know for my daughter, she was actually almost 4 when her brother was born, so definitely a different age. But we had gone to actually a class about being an older sibling. And it was a wonderful, like 3-hour little workshop that the hospital had organized. And I remember her coming home and feeling so empowered. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm a big sister now. And she had all these responsibilities, and she started picking up her little miniature toys that the babies might get into. And it's just, so it's really, again, it's about preparing them for the journey that they'll be going through as well.
Also, if your partner's available on the weekends and things, it might be nice to book in that Saturday morning is your time when you're going to spend special time with your daughter or something like that. So that if there's moments during the week when she's really demanding attention and you can't give it at that moment, then you can say, hey, that would be a really special thing for us to do at our special time on Saturday, which sounds like a lot for a 2-year-old to take in, but actually it totally works. And you could even have a little notebook and write down, you really want to go to the park, and today we couldn't go, so when you go on Saturday morning, then you cross it off, and then she really feels like, 1, I've been heard, and 2, exactly, my mom really cares about what I'm saying. So I think that would be super important, to make sure that you have this regular special time for the older one to know that that's when I'm going to get to hang out with my mom, or those kind of things as well. Yes. Great. So let's have a look. It says, hi from Eleanor. Oh, now that's the question down here. My son, 2.5-year-old, is going through a phase where he throws things when he's not happy with something. He's throwing toys and anything he can get his hands on. He's also throwing his plate of food when he's finished. Not sure how to deal with it in a positive way. That is, throwing is definitely so challenging to stay calm and relaxed.
And it's true, because and again, it's a need. It's a discovery of what they're able to do. They're not throwing it to be vicious or to be mean or anything. They're just, oh my gosh, I've just discovered my arm can throw things, and so it's really helping them to be able to throw. So, let's go throw the ball outside or at the park, or if you're inside, maybe something soft that he can practice throwing. But food is, I can't let you put that on the floor. I can't let you throw that. So again, it's that same kind of very, convincing language that we have of that you are setting the limits, and they need us to set the limits. They're looking at us to guide them in what their boundaries are. So it's really I can't let you do that. And or maybe when they're throwing the food, is you're telling me that you're all done and you take it away, so that there's a real kind of relationship to the fact that if we throw food, it means that we're not interested, so we're done with eating.
I also really like to teach the all done sign like this. Oh, you're telling me you're all done? All done. And then if they go, and you go, okay, well, let's try again. But if you throw, then I'll think that you're all done. And then I would only give 1 chance. Otherwise, they'll just take every chance that you give them. If you say 3 chances, I'm counting down now.
And sometimes with the food too, what I've noticed is that when there's too much on their plate, it's kind of like it's more kind of also like the sensorial exploration. So I prefer serving them over and over again and just having smaller portions on the plate, so that they get through with it. And then if they want more, we can put more on. Then if there's an excess, then it starts being thrown. So yeah,
I like that too, definitely. I think the throwing toys, I see a lot that sometimes a child just is throwing all the toys in. And so then I say, oh, let's just put all the toys on the ground then, because it's as if they sometimes just want to come along and just sweep everything off the shelves. And it might be like I have a bowl of pegs with a pegboard in our class, and some days the kids just pick up the pegboard bowl and with all the pegs tip them upside down. And when the child's in that kind of mood, I kind of step in to give a little bit of assistance, like I'll hold the bowl and I'll give you one by one, instead of giving them the responsibility for the whole bowl that day, because they're just not managing it that, and then they can't even do the activity that perhaps they are interested in. And then they'll walk away if they're not interested actually in the activity, and we can maybe find, I have some nice little small bean bags, and we play throwing and catching games. And usually then they're really interested. And at home, it might be something like balloons, because balloons are really fun to kind of bat at and throw, but it's also pretty good for indoors. So balloons and things like that would be like, oh, I see you want to throw. Let's go and find our balloons, or let's blow up some balloons. And
exactly. It's really that notion of trying as much as possible to be in the yes, so that when we see them, doing something, it's a need that they're trying to satisfy. So as opposed to always saying no, it's understanding what that need is and giving them the opportunity to actually quench their need to throw or climb or all of that. So sometimes there's just a time and place to do those things, and we just need to help them know what that is, basically.
Cool. I'm wondering if we've got all the questions from this board now. Sorry, bear with me. Oh yes, I do have another one. Hi, Jeanne-Marie and Simone. My child of 22 months doesn't want to be alone for a few minutes at home, although I told him that I'm going to the toilet or picking up some cloths. I'm not sure what she means there, but sorry about that. But he often starts to call for attention and sometimes crying. It is really difficult, isn't it, when you, you don't want to make them cry, but you do need to use the bathroom sometimes, and sometimes you don't want the audience with you.
Yeah, I think that's part of parenting is you don't pee in private anymore. But
I do think that, when a child has trouble with you separating from them, I find that it takes practice. So sometimes you're just sitting next to them and you're a meter away from them. Then I just shuffle back and I'm now 1.30 meters, and do that for a week where I'm just distancing myself during play so that I'm not hovering as much. And then I'm just popping to the kitchen to turn the kettle on and I'm coming back, which takes 30 seconds. And they learn, object permanence, that you're coming back. At 22 months, they should have a pretty good idea about it, but they're practicing. Yes. And then, okay, now I'm going to make a cup of tea, and then I come back. And now I'm going to the toilet and I come back. And if they cry, it's okay. You can say, I see that you're sad. You find it hard when mum goes to the toilet. I'll be available soon. And you're just very clear with love, telling them exactly what's going on, but also really acknowledging their feelings. It's hard to see me leave the room, huh?
Yes.
Can also help.
I think you're right on about acknowledging, and just letting them know, oh, I can hear you. I'm right here. I'll be right there. And again, kind of preparing them, and also notice how much time you are spending next to them as well. Try as much as possible when they are in an activity to not interrupt them, and really kind of start stepping away so you're not always there playing with them, because I think also we tend to think that we need to always be with them, and we need to also help them have some alone time. So, kind of distancing yourself, like Simone was saying, little by little.
Yeah, just practicing. It's hard, but it's worth sticking at, definitely. It might be a good opportunity for us to just step away from the questions for a moment, to have a little aside about remaining positive, because I think you can still say a lot of the things you need to say, but without saying no. For example, instead of don't drop that to a child who's carrying a glass, I tend to say, we carry it with 2 hands, or use 2 hands, and give them, I tell them what they want them to do instead of not what I don't want them to do. It's a bit like if I say, don't put your hands on your heads, you're kind of like, what did she say? Hands on heads? That's all I can hear. So when you say don't, followed by an instruction, you're basically encouraging them to do the opposite of what you want.
Exactly. Such as, don't run, just say, use your walking feet. Could you use your walking feet? Can you show me how we walk? I mean, I remember that was something in the classroom where it was like, you know, and we even have in the primary, we even have exercises where we model how to walk and you know, can you walk over to sit behind the table and stand over here and da-da-da. And it's just about, like you say, being in the yes and encouraging what we do want them to do. So yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in our class, we have a snack area, and it's a very popular snack area, and they like to eat quite a lot of crackers because not only
quite popular
because it's at their height, they don't need to do it at home, and it's quite a nice social area with a round table where they can watch and observe other children. But what's really fun is, like, often they've already got half-eaten cracker, and then they get up to make the next one, and I say, yes, you can have another cracker when you finish that one. So I'm not saying don't eat, no, you're not allowed another cracker. I'm saying, yes, you can have one when you finish this one. And I find that quite fun too, to kind of work out ways that you can still say yes, even kind of when you mean no.
Yeah. Wonderful.
It changes the whole attitude. All right, back to our questions. Is it okay to use stickers, for example, during toilet training? So I guess that people is trying to say, okay, well, I've tried everything and now I want cooperation. What about a sticker? And for me, a sticker is like a bribe, don't you think?
Yes, I would definitely agree with you, especially for toileting. That is a normal human bodily function that doesn't need to be rewarded. It's really helping the child be aware of a new routine and a different routine and how they can become independent. So it's really encouraging, you know, the positive and not praising. I mean, that's what stickers and you know, like you say, they're kind of bribes, and they're also kind of taking the power away of me needing to do it for myself to kind of, you know, better my life. I'll be independent. I won't need to, you know, lie down and be changed a diaper and all this. It's empowering. And so, you know, actually, you know, Jane Nelson has this exercise around the three things that as parents we don't have control over, which is sleeping, eating, and toileting. And those three things are really about how we set up the environment for our children to be successful. It's the patience that we are taking and the routine that we establish around it, and consistency, and just, again, loving firmness and just, you know, encouraging that repetition. So I know that there's plenty of, you know, techniques of, you know, get your child to be potty trained over the weekend and, you know, all this stuff. But I think it just takes a longer time and patience and respect and helping them establish a new way of taking care of their needs.
And I think why Montessori teachers just in general avoid trying to get cooperation through bribes or through, oh, well, if you're good, then you can have this. It's that we're actually trying to build self-discipline. Children actually realizing for themselves what's right and wrong, not because I'm going to get something as a result.
Exactly.
So toileting is obviously more difficult because sometimes it doesn't happen. You want to make it go quicker. It's messy. I understand those kind of things. But actually just to trust that their bodies, again, will work it out and it will happen, and that there are going to be some messes along the way, but to set yourself up for when that happens. So you can have a pile of cloths ready to be, you know, to wipe up, that there's a pail of where you can actually put the wet cloths if they're wet, and the child knows where to get dry underpants, and it can all be set up in a very, you know, low-key way, so that when there's a spill, it's not a big drama. It's more like, oh, okay, I can see that the floor's wet, let's go and get a cloth and we'll wipe it up.
Exactly.
So so we're going to avoid all those bribes now, huh? It makes it harder, but in the long run, it's really worth it, because you're building kids who are doing things not because mum is going to give me something, but actually be like, you just can't keep up at a certain point. What are you going to keep buying them?
Exactly. And on that same line, I know that this is sometimes hard for parents to understand, at least here in the US, I hear it a lot, is the good job. constantly praising our children for just about anything that they do. They take a sip of water, good job. They cross the street, good job. And it's constantly where the child is no longer like really understanding, like, wait, I'm learning to drink from a cup because I want to learn to drink from a cup. And then they start really needing that exterior praise, and they kind of always are waiting to hear good job, when we need to really encourage the effort that they make. Like, oh, I saw how careful you were being with the cup. You didn't spill. Or, or just encouraging what they're trying to master, as opposed to this very freely given overpraising that good job is.
Yeah, they basically stop hearing it, or they only do it because they're going to get a good job, and those kind of things. And it's a really big thing that we work on with the parents that come to our classes, is like, what do we say instead? And often if the child does look to you because they want to see your feedback on a painting or something, I just tell the parents, describe what you see. You can say, oh, I see you've done big circles in blue, and you've chosen yellow and red today, and those kind of things. So describing it. And also like, oh, I'm really excited for you, because you can see their excitement. You don't have to actually take it. And also, because it's basically an external thing that you're doing if you're the one that's judging it. Instead, just be objective instead of being subjective. And
exactly.
So you can support them that way.
Yes.
And there's lots of other things we can say instead. Really nice. I have a toddler that has trouble sharing their toys. How can I get her to stop pushing kids away when they try to take her toys? I want her to learn to share. I think I've done a post on that one.
Yes, I think we all have. Sharing is a tough one. It's not something that comes naturally to the toddler. It's everything belongs to them. This whole planet, the universe, the everything. So it's really hard to impose sharing, and sharing will come in due time. So it's again about acknowledging and, maybe modeling to give something else to the child. Like, oh, I see, just to model that everybody's needs are being met, but we unfortunately cannot force a child to share. And I think it's actually goes really against, respecting children when we force them to share. So it's really more about modeling, like, oh, I can see your friend really wants to play with the same toy. Do you think you could find another toy that your friend could play with? So you're acknowledging everybody's feelings. Like, you don't want to give up your toy, and this other child wants to play. So just helping them, again, problem solve. I mean, you probably have this in your environment with the little ones. How do you deal with it?
I'm just going to laugh. I'm sorry. Someone just posted about 10 pieces of papers through our letterbox at the same time. Oh. So excuse me if you just heard like this big crash at my end. That's really funny. So in our play group, we kind of just have a rule that everyone gets to finish their turn, and then it will be available for the next child. So they share by taking turns, and that works really well because everyone's clear about what the rule is. And so the children learn very quickly that that's the case. They also really enjoy it because we're basically trying to build concentration for the child. And if they have to give away a couple of their puzzle pieces to somebody else, it's really difficult. So it's practicing. So if, for example, a child's busy with a puzzle and another child tries to take some off him, then I would say, and they're pushing him like this in this question, then I would say to them, oh, it sounds like you want to tell him it will be available soon. And I keep modeling those words that I want him to say instead, because I don't even really want him to push it away. I once kind of used to do stop, I don't like that. But with this hand out, they often just push the child.
Exactly.
Putting the hands on their hips instead, because they're really watching everything that you're modeling. And so I also really like to do this with kids who have their toys snatched off them a lot, because they tend to be maybe the smaller children or the children that are a little bit more timid. And I really want to empower them. So not even necessarily focus on the child that was trying to snatch, but that you can really concentrate on the child who has had their toy taken away, to say, oh, you can tell him you don't like that. You can say, stop, I don't like that, or stop, it will be available soon, that kind of thing.
Right,
so,
right. Yes, yes.
The sharing.
Definitely.
It is. It's not developmentally until they're 3, and then you still need to often guide. Oh, you don't feel like playing together anymore, and helping them get out of situations when they thought they wanted to play together, but actually now after 10 minutes I'm done and I want to leave this situation.
Yeah. Very true.
Super fun. Yeah. So I think it's also would be really nice to kind of give people an idea about some of the other things that positive discipline talks about. I mean, we've been giving lots of different strategies about trying to remain positive in kind of directing them, giving the child a positive discipline book. It's how she talks about the origins of discipline. Do you want to talk through that one? The word?
So I'm sorry, you completely cut out. You went in slow motion, and I didn't hear everything.
Oh, that's okay. I was talking about how in the positive discipline book, Jane Nelson talks about the origins of the word discipline. And we always think of discipline now as like, oh no, I'm going to spank you, or threatening and things like this. But actually, I thought you might like to speak to.
Well, the origin of the word is really disciple, and it's really about showing a way of being, not commanding or negating somebody's feeling, but really. And it's that part you were talking about, just also self-discipline. It's really having a guide, being able to see how things should be. I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, I didn't do my homework, so. But okay. It was. I mean, it is about disciple.
I'm sure you're on the spot a little bit, but the bit I remember was that she says disciple is from to teach and learn, and so actually we've forgotten to teach and learn. And teaching is really a big part of Montessori. It's like, how can I get cooperation with my child? Give them the skills that they often need to then be able to get dressed independently and all those kind of things. I think there's a lot of opportunity for those kind of things. We're coming up to the 1 hour mark. So if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to post them quickly now, because we've covered the ones that we've got. And but Jeanne-Marie, is there anything, you've got a seminar coming up soon. How can people find out more about that?
Well, actually, I was going to mention that if you're on the Google Hangout, if you look at the showcase that Simone put on the right of the screen, you can see our different channels, YouTube channels, our websites, and so forth. And actually, yes, I'm working right now on Be the Best Parent You Can Be video summit, and where I will be interviewing 21 experts in the field of parenting and child development to really help us kind of unlock all of the secrets to really parenting with joy and confidence. And I do believe you will be joining us, Simone. So I'm looking forward to that. I have some great experts lined up. I'm not going to reveal anything until I have all my ducks in the row. But this is going to start December 1st. So you're welcome to sign up on my website. Just at the bottom of my website, I have an update. Just enter your email, and then you will get the updates, and you'll get that information. And it's something that you will need to sign up for. And when you sign up, you will receive an interview a day for the length of the summit. So I'm really excited about that. The last one I did earlier this year was a great success. I'm still getting feedback from viewers that it just, transformed their way of thinking about parenting and their way of approaching their children. So actually, the last summit, I actually had Jane Nelson, who wrote all the positive discipline books. I'm hoping that she will join us again this time around. So, yes.
That's super cool.
Yes.
Excellent. Very fun. I thought that it might be interesting also to end with a couple more tips about punishments. Yeah, because punishments are really tricky. It's when you end up getting control of your child because they're scared to do it, or they might even end up working away around instead. And so what I like to say to parents instead is, Instead of punishing your child, let them make amends. So one parent today just in class said that her child felt very guilty. How can I stop him feeling guilty? And I said, well, what would you do if you did something wrong? You'd apologize, or you'd make it up to the person. So I never force a child to say sorry, but I might be able to say, oh, I see that they're crying. Shall we go and get a tissue? And then with an older child, you could ask them, oh, so how do you feel? That we could make it up to whoever something happened to, and things like that. But maybe that's for a whole nother day. We can get into punishments.
That is a whole other conversation, but it's just knowing that punishment never is really positive for the child. It's really, they actually react with either being resentful, revenge, or retracting. So it's really, there's nothing empowering and encouraging. And really, I mean, when I do my positive discipline workshops with parents, we always start with this one exercise where we really share and brainstorm of all the challenges that we're having. And I promise you that all these challenges are universal. I mean, we all have, you know, pushing and biting and fighting with siblings and talking back and all of that. It's just universal. And then I asked them to think about, you know, kind of forward thinking 20 years down the road of this child that you have today comes back to your home as a young adult. And what are the life skills and the qualities that you would want to see in your child? And again, these end up being universal, generous, you know, happy, caring for others, you know, emotionally stable, all of this. And so that really kind of paints for us the roadmap of where we want to get our children. And so it makes us really think about how we deal with different situations, so that when we are punishing, putting in timeout, sometimes using force or whatever, those are not modeling what we want, all the positive aspects that we want down the road. So we really always have to think back of, am I encouraging these positive life skills that I want to see in my child later on?
Yeah, I've had 2 more questions come in. Have you got time to answer them?
Yes, but I wanted to share something that I brought to the table. I don't know. Have you seen these positive discipline cards?
Only on a website, not in real life.
Okay, so Jane Nelson created 52 cards. It's actually with our techie generation. It's actually also a phone app, and it basically has all of the tools of that you can, you know, you can take a card and look at it and say, oh, I'm going to try this, and it's just a lot of positive tool cards. So that's something to look into. It's on her website, and we put her website on the right as well for books and things like that.
Yeah.
So
cool.
yeah. So, okay, one more question.
Yeah, so we'll do, I'm not sure what I missed, but I wanted to ask how to help my 4-year-old voluntarily brush her teeth. She's rebelling against this item in our regular morning and evening routine. I've asked her to put her tasks in her preferred order, but it gets pushed off. Yeah, so we did cover some morning routines already, but the brushing teeth one definitely poses, it is difficult to engage their cooperation on that.
So that I mean, what comes to mind is curiosity questions of, do you feel your teeth? Like, what can we do so our teeth don't feel so grungy and yucky? And what do you do for your teeth to feel smooth? So that it's really, again, you know, something like, oh, if I want them to feel smooth, oh, I have to do this. So that it's really about what, you know, the outcome, not an obligation of you need to brush your teeth. It's understanding why, understanding that if I don't want my teeth to feel all grimy and yucky, well, then I need to go and brush them. And, you know, as much as possible, trying to make that activity fun, of you know, having a mirror down at their level, of having a toothbrush, maybe toothpaste that they can choose, or a toothbrush that they can choose. trying as much as possible to, again, give them ownership of that. If it really becomes a problem, it's I'll do the top, you can do the bottom, kind of taking turn, brushing your teeth alongside with them, you know, different things like that.
Yeah, I think they're most of the things that I also recommend to parents.
Yeah.
I mean, we always just used to, this is the way we brush our teeth, brush our teeth, brush our teeth. You know, we just made it silly. I mean, I also had a toothbrush in the bath so that they just would kind of practice and get used to having that kind of thing. You try softer toothbrushes to find out what is it that you don't like about that toothbrush, if you think that that kind of thing can be a problem. And I think we're going to have to close the questions there, even though there's a couple more coming in, because it's getting late here in Amsterdam. We're going to call off the call. Thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll keep in touch via email. Hopefully this is all recorded and we'll be able to send you a link for the playback too, in case you missed the early part of the call. So Jeanne-Marie, thanks for joining us.
And just so everybody knows, Simone and I did have a conversation about maybe making these monthly after the new year. So hopefully we will be back and we can answer more questions.
Yeah, we'd love this to become a regular thing, and we'll keep you updated via email when the next one is going to be live. So thanks again for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Bye.